Hello everybody! Today, we're gonna talk about the Warlock class. More precisely, the Warlock class in Baldur's Gate 3 and what it has to offer. Now, how can I do that, you may ask? Well, as discussed in previous videos, we kind of established that Baldur's Gate 3 will most likely stick to the player handbook content, which is the first book that was let out by Wizards of the Coast for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. That means there is a very limited amount of class and subclasses they can choose from. So, without further ado, let's get into it. The first thing you need to know about the Warlock is that there is a few baseline, like with every classes. That means that whenever you pick the Warlock, you're gonna get these features no matter what you pick. So let's go for it. The Patron is the first feature you'll get. You will choose it while creating your Warlock, essentially. It is an integral facet of your character after all, so it makes sense you take it first. Now, that also means that characters who are Warlocks in the game, like a certain companion, will be stuck on their Patron. You will not be able to change them, which is kind of annoying because Patrons are the subclasses of the Warlock. That means you choose your subclasses from the get-go. So I hope you know what you're getting into. This class requires some searching around to make sure you get the build right, but I'm sure with a little help and a little reading, you'll be just fine. You also get Eldritch Invocations at 2nd level. These are little bonuses you get from, well, just existing as a Warlock. It can be really big, like Agonizing Blast, which lets you add your Charisma modifier to your Eldritch Blast cantrip. I almost forgot the name here. Or Devil's Sight, which lets you see in any darkness or anything. Those two are probably the main ones you'll see. They are the main two big in the game that you should always get. Pack Boon. At 3rd level, you get another bonus depending on what you want to specialize in. Now, there are 4 of them, the Chain, the Blade, the Tome, and the Talisman. Now, this is kind of like in a video game where you get the choice of weapon. You can choose what you're gonna do. So Pact of the Chain gives you a familiar, and basically that's about it. It's probably the better one, honestly. Unless you want to be a melee fighter, kind of Warlock mix, where you can get the Blade, which lets you invoke a blade and you get a bunch of bonuses from it. The Tome is kind of for spell casting, but honestly the Warlock already gets the best cantrip, and the only thing the Tome gives you is cantrips, so it's kind of left behind. And the Talisman lets you heal yourself. It's not the best because the heal is like 1d4, it's not that great. The last thing is you will get Mystic Arcanum. Now, the Warlock spell work a little bit differently than other full caster. It is a full caster, don't get me wrong, but it works much differently. How so? Well, we'll get into that, and I kind of will explain Mystic Arcanum at that moment. So, the important details that I want to get into for the Warlock is that you only have 2 spell slots until level 10. That's right, you can only cast 2 spells per rest until level 10. And at level 10 you get 3. And at level 17, you get a 4th one. There's a spelling mistake there. The game will probably not go to level 17, because they said a while ago that 10 would be the max, and then they kind of backtracked that and redacted what they said. They didn't mean 10, they were going to go a little bit higher maybe. Who knows? The one thing is, you're not getting to level 17 unless maybe they do a DLC, but that's still to be seen. The game is not even released yet, so we'll slow down a little bit. So, for all intents and purposes, you're gonna get 2 spell slots for all of the early game and 3 spell slots for maybe the end game. That means you need to use your spell efficiently. Now, unlike the other full casters, your slots recharge on short rest. That's really cool because, well, the short rests in the game, you can only have 2 for now per long rest. I don't know if that's gonna stay. I don't know how they're gonna implement that. I don't know if they're gonna change it. But in a tabletop game, you can short rest a lot. It only takes 1 hour and you're pretty good to go. So, the Warlock can like use its spell all the time every fight, which is pretty good. The one thing that's really weird about it, and now we're getting into the little details that some people don't really understand themselves, and that's why I'm here. The slots stop at level 5, so every 2 level you get an additional spell slot level. That means you can cast spells that are stronger and stronger. Basically, so level 1 and 2 you get first level, level 3 and 4 you get second level, level 5 and 6 you get third level, and so on until 5th level. And 5th level it stops. But you have spells that go to 9th level, so why can't you use them? Well, this is what Mystic Arcanum is for. This is a really weird thing, okay? So bear with me. So, Mystic Arcanum lets you choose one spell that you can cast once per day, well, per long rest. That spell will go up with your level as well. This is the way you get to 9th level spells. So if we come back, you get 1 use at level 11, 2 use at level 15, and 3 use at level 17. That means that, well, we already said you're not getting to 17. You might get to 15, but that is a big if. The one thing we're sure is that you get to 11. So you at least at 11th level, you'll get like level 6 spells. So you're not too screwed. It recharges on long rest. It's not the greatest, but it's serviceable. So yeah, that's how you get the higher level, and then you have 3 spell slots and Mystic Arcanum at level 11, which is most likely going to be near the end game. So you have 4 spells per fight and 3 that are recharging on short rests. Not too bad, not too bad. Now, I listed a bit of the Warlock spell because the spell tables are a bit different, and if you don't know them, or if you're watching these videos because precisely you just want to see which class fits more your style, well, this is for you. So at first level you have Armor of Agathis that basically gives you temporary hit points, and whenever people hit you, you can hit them back a little bit. It's weaker than Mage Armor in some way, but it's better in some others. You are much tankier than a wizard, that is for sure, at least. At second level you have Crown of Madness, which lets you control a creature, Invisibility, which turns you invisible, Darkness, which makes darkness appear that nobody can see through, except you with Devil's Side, that's a cool combo, and Misty Step, which lets you, as a bonus action, relocate yourself at 30 feet where you can see. Third level is where you start to get cool summons. At every level past this, you will get summons of different differing powers. It's cool. Not much to say about it. You get some more at every level of spells, literally, but they start at third level. You get Counterspell, which is a counterspell. It's good to have, especially because you can use it every fight. You don't have to do like the spell economy that wizard and sorcerer have to do. You can just use everything all at once. Dispel Magic is always good once again. Fly, which is insanely strong, is there as well. You can pew pew people with Eldritch Blast from the air. At 4th level you get Banish spells, Charms, and more summons. You get Dimensional Door, which is a bit like Misty Step but better. At 5th level you get Scrying, so you can like scry on someone, and you get Modify Memories, so when someone's sleeping or whatever, you can change their memories of you. More of them. At 6th level, this is where you're gonna need to use Mystic Arcanum, sadly. You get Circle of Death, which is basically like a big circle that deals a lot of damage to people, and Create Undead, which is, well, you create undead. You have like little Thrall serving you and whatnot. At 7th level, you get Crown of Star. This gives you 5, I think, motes of light that you can send towards the enemy as a bonus action. It's like a bonus attack, essentially. They deal quite a lot of damage, and that's about it. Plane Shift, you're gonna need Plane Shift at some point, probably. Fingers of Death, which is 1 big damage to 1 single target. Maddening Darkness, which is darkness but better. People suffer psionic damage, I think, in it. It's really strong. Dominate Monster, those are the 8th level. And 9 level, you get Weird, which is a really big area of effect stun on a lot of people, and it also deals damage. Blade of Disaster, which is basically the cleric summon weapon at 9th level. True Polymorph, which is great, and Power Word Kill, which will outright kill anything that doesn't have 100 HP. So these are the spell. This is the page with the Mystic Arcanum, and this is the page with the non-Mystic Arcanum. So that's a bit helpful, maybe. Now, we are gonna get into the different subclasses, which are also the patrons. The first one that's in the game is called the Fiend. You serve a demon of some sort or a devil of some sort. Basically, you add Fire Spell, and it's the Blaster class. It is the one that deals the real damage. So, at first level, you get the Dark One's Blessing. So, every time you kill something, you gain XP. HP, hit points. It makes you really tanky. Like I said, you are much tankier than the wizards, and this is partly why. At 6th level, you get Dark One's Own Luck. On a short rest, so that recharges every short rest, like your spells, you can add 1d10 to any save. I believe you can wait to see the result of the save, but I think the game is just going to add that as a bonus, as they do with like guidance and whatnot, as of right now. At 10th level, you get Fiendish Resilience. On a long rest, I think, you can choose a damage type, and you get resistance to that damage. That is insanely strong, okay? So, you on a long rest, so depending on what enemies you're gonna fight, if you have a little information about them, you get resistance on that damage type. That is insane. And at 14th level, which you might or might not see, who knows, you get Hurled Through Hell. Whenever you land a hit on something, which is gonna be pretty often with your Eldritch Blast, you can banish them for 1 turn. They do not get a save on this. It's very important to know they do not get a save on this. You just banish them for 1 turn until the end of your next turn, and they take 10d10 damage when they come back, which is very strong. You are the Blaster class, but you are extremely resilient. The Fiend is probably going to be the go-to for most people, I would assume, because it is by far the strongest. Like the Fighter, where the Battle Master was just leagues above the other. The next one may not be the strongest, but it is the one people tend to like the most, and the one I prefer as well. The Great Old One. Your patron is basically an Eldritch Horror, like Cthulhu or something like that. It is very Lovecraft inspired, and it adds a lot of fun with the mind effect. In a tabletop game, maybe it's gonna be better. I have a hard time seeing how they are gonna make this class work in the game, but we'll see. So first things first, it adds a few spells to your list, like the Fiend added Fire Spell. This one are mind affecting, so you get like Dominate Person, Detect Thought, Distant Whisper, anything that you can do to the mind. At first level, you can telepathically speak to anybody in 30 feet, I believe, that with your mind, basically. And it bypasses languages, so you can talk to literally anybody. In tabletop game, you can make people just go crazy with this. It's really funny. In this game, I don't think it's gonna be able to do that, but it is pretty fun. At 6th level, you get Entropic Ward. Whenever someone tries to hit you, you can impose disadvantage on the attack. This is 1 per short rest. You also get advantage on it on the next attack you do against them, I believe. Don't quote me on that though. At 10th level, you get Touch Shield. You basically get resistance to psychic damage, so you take half damage on anybody that tries to hit you with psychic damage. And they also take the same damage you take from that type of damage, which is pretty neat. Also, your thoughts cannot be read, and your mind cannot be altered or whatnot, so that's pretty cool as well. Very flavorful. I don't know how good it's gonna be in the game though. And at 14th level, you have Create Thrall. You can touch an unconscious humanoid and make him yours until you use this again. Basically, they are charmed and they will do anything you want until you use the feature again, or until some otherworldly force takes out, like Dispel Magic or whatever. The big part of Great Old Wand is that it is an Eldritch inspired theme. We know the enemies in Baldur's Gate 3 are most likely going to be the Mind Flayers. Is there going to be some flavor? I hope so, but we'll see. So far the game, I think, is far from being done, so we can speculate all we want. It's not going to help. The next one that's not in the game as of right now is the Archfey. Now, the Archfey is when your patron is an entity from the Feywild. It can be like a really cool nymph, or a very strong Fey, or like a fairy or something, and you get Fey power. So, the spells they had is... The better one are Fairy Fire, Greater Invisibility, and the Dominate Monster and Person. This is very cool, this is very strong. Fairy Fire is one of the strongest spell in, well, probably the game. So, you get that. At first level, you get Fey Presence. Basically, you can charm or frighten enemy in a cube around you, I believe. They have to pass a DC, obviously. But that's pretty good at first level. When the DCs are pretty low, you can literally turn every fight. It's gonna be pretty cool, especially I feel in the goblin camp. You can just turn the whole goblins against each other. That's pretty funny. Misty Escape at 6th level. Upon taking damage, you can blink 30 feet away and turn invisible until your next turn. That's really cool. You are a lot less tanky than the Fiend. That gives you a little bit of tankiness per se. It's not as good, obviously, but it's serviceable. And at 10th level, you get Beguiling Defenses, where you basically cannot be charmed, and anybody who tries to charm you gets charmed if they fail their DC, obviously. This patron is all about difficulty class on spells. The last thing is at 14th level, you get Dark Delirium. You might, like I said, you may or may not have this. You charm and frighten a creature for 1 minute once per short rest. So they have to fail the DC, but that's pretty cool. As well, the first level, Fey Presence, it is for a single round. So it's not that great, but it's pretty good still. Overall, the Archfey is a lot less strong than the Fiend, but probably on the same level as the Great Old Wand, and we know for sure it's going to be in the game. Now, there are a few things that I would like to see in the games, right? They added the Githyanki's, which is not a class from the player handbook. So we know if they really want something to be done, they can do it. These are the classes, well, the subclasses I would like to see for the Warlock. Now, these are my favorites, but that being said, I think a lot of people will argue. So the one I would like to see, and they could have it, I'm not thinking they will, but I'm just saying they could if they really wanted to. So we'll see. The first one is, without surprise to anybody, the X-Blade. The X-Blade is probably the funniest and most fun, and just, I said fun twice, flavorful and everything. Everybody loves the X-Blade. Alright, it is the melee Warlock. So you get melee spells like Blade Ward, Elemental Weapon, and Banishing Smite. So, why is it so popular? Why do people like it? Well, you basically bond with a weapon. The weapon, for all intents and purposes, is the personification of your patron, which is very cool. You can summon the weapon like an Eldritch Knight does, and it's really fun. You can use your charisma to attack and damage, which is strong, and you can X creatures to deal more damage to them. And after a while, at later level, you get like partial concealment from them, which is really strong. Anyways, it's the melee build. It's really fun. You can X, you can just swing your blade everywhere. I do think the Fiend is gonna be a lot better. And honestly, I'm thinking of running a Warlock whenever I'm gonna play the game on full release. And I'm thinking I'm gonna pick the Fiend. Maybe the X-Blade, but probably the Fiend. I'm also wondering, like, this could be really cool, a really cool patron for Will, because he's like the Blade of Frontier and whatnot. Just saying. Just saying. The next one is gonna be a bit less popular than the X-Blade, for sure. But it's interesting. So, you know Warlock deal a lot of damage, but did you know they could heal? Well, with the Celestial Patron, they can. So you get like healing and light spell, you get a ranged heal. Okay, so you get a number of d6s equal to 1 plus your charisma modifier. So let's say you have like a +5 in charisma, because you get like to 20 at some point. You have 6 d6 that you can use as a ranged heal. Alright? That means you can heal 6 downed allies. This is insane. I think it's a 60 feet heal too. That's crazy. It's like a really good class. You get resistance to radiant damage, and at later level you can just ignore a death saving throw, which is a really cool thing for a healer. Like, you can just ignore the death saving throw, and you can just say, hey, I'm alive again. And for a healer to ignore the death saving throw, that means you can stay alive for so long. That is insane. It is one of the stronger healer in 5e. There isn't much thing as a healer, but it's like, you know, Cleric and the Celestial Warlock are both very strong. Meaning you also get Eldritch Blast while being able to do this is really cool. And you heal with your Charisma modifier, so, you know. The Celestial is by far a cool thing I would like to see. And that's it for this video. If you learned something, if you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm gonna do the whole series of these probably once a week, because the game is still far off, so I'm not in a rush to do them. But it's fun to look at what the subclasses might look like, you know? Will Larian be able to implement some of the non-player handbook subclasses that you'd like to see? If yes, let me know in the comment below. If not, well, maybe they won't. And if there's any classes you would like to see next, just let me a comment and I'll do them. For now, that's all for me, and I'll see you guys next time.